we'll look at one with a couple more steps to the equation. So this is example 3. So with example 3, we have a negative 2w plus 11 is greater than a negative 4w minus 23. If you'll notice with this equation, or this inequality, sorry, you have variables on the left side and on the right side, okay? We're always trying to get the variable by itself, but when you have variables on one side and on the other side, you first have to get them to the same side, okay? We want our terms with variables on one of the sides and then our terms without variables to be on the other side. Does it matter which side we move our variables to? Absolutely not, okay? So let's just choose to add a 2w to both sides. Okay. Why did I add 2w? Because this is a negative 2w. To make a negative 2 go to 0, you can think about it on a number line if you want. If you're at negative 2 and we want to go from negative 2 to 0, you have to add 2 to get to 0, right? Because moving to the right, you get greater. Oops, there we go. Greater, moving to the left would be lesser, so we're adding 2 to get to 0. The opposite of a negative 2, 0 would be to add, a negative 2w would be to add 2w. And whatever we do to one side, we have to do the other side. So if you like drawing the line, draw your line. Okay. So this cancels out. And we now are left with just a positive 11 on the left side is greater than a negative 4w plus 2w. Still leaves us with a negative 2w. But now we've gotten our variables to be on the same side. They're both on this right side, okay? So since this term is my term with a variable, and we got that on the right side, everything without a variable needs to go to the left side. So to cancel out a minus 23, we add 23. Okay. A negative 23 plus 23 is 0. And then 11 plus 23 gives us 34. So we have 34 is greater than a negative 2w. This is not w minus 2. This negative 2 is being multiplied by my w. The whole thing, whole negative 2 is multiplied by my w. Okay? So what we're going to do is do the opposite of multiplication. We're going to divide by a negative 2. Negative 2 is multiplied by my w, so we're going to divide by a negative 2 to cancel it out. And we got to do it to both sides. A negative divided by a negative makes a positive, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So we have 1w. Okay, and then 34 divided by negative 2 is a negative 17. I'm not bringing down my greater than symbol because when you divide by a negative number, if you looked at the PowerPoint, dividing by a negative number means you have to flip your inequality. So instead of a greater than sign, it's going to flip and become a less than. Okay, so this would be our answer. Negative 17 is less than w. Okay, if you liked how we were writing it before with our variable on the left side, you can flip this whole thing around and it reads the same. W, so we flip the w from the right side to the left side. We're going to flip the inequality from a less than to a greater, and then we flip our negative 17 from the left side to the right side. This means the same thing as this. Exactly the same thing, because we kept the greater part open towards the w. Greater part is open towards the w. Okay, we're not done. We still need to graph this. So I'm just going to draw a little graph. I'm going to put a negative 17 in the middle. I need a smaller value for the left side. Well, smaller than a negative 17 would be a negative 18. It's further to the left side. This is our smaller value. And then a negative 16, okay? Negative 18 is further away from 0 on that left side, so it is smaller. I'm gonna put a circle, open circle around negative 17 because it cannot be equal to W. And then we're picking whether to shade left or right, okay? We want to shade towards where the W's are greater than a negative 17, right? So the greater values are always to the right. Think about it. You pick a negative 16 is greater than negative 17. Because if you kept going this direction, you would end up hitting 0 and 1 and 2. Well, you know 1 is greater than negative 17, right? So we're going to shade towards the right side this time. And there we go. Last but not least, this is our last example. Example 4. We have 4 times 2y minus 1 is greater than or equal to negative 7 plus 2y. Okay. So once again, we have a 4 being multiplied by parentheses. So step 1 is always to distribute. So we want to distribute that 4 to both things inside of our parentheses. So 4 times a 2y would be 8y. 4 times a negative 1 is a negative 4. And we can bring down our inequality greater than or equal to. And we didn't have to distribute anything to this right side, so we can bring it down how it was. Okay, now just like above, we have variables on both sides. We have an 8y on the left and a 2y on the right. We want to get them to the same side. It does not matter which side we move them to, okay? For this one, let's move our 2y to from the right side to left side. So since it's positive, we would do the opposite and subtract a 2y from both sides. Okay, so 8y minus 2y is 6y, minus 4 is greater than or equal to a negative 7, and 2y take away 2y would cancel out. That would be 0. So now we got our variables to the same side. They're on the left side now. So anything without a variable, it needs to go to the right side. We're trying to get that y by itself, right? So opposite of a minus 4 would be a plus 4. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So we have 6y is greater than or equal to a negative 7 plus 4 would be a negative 3. Divide both sides by 6. Because this is 6 times y. The opposite of multiplication would be division. 6 divided by 6 is a 1. So we're left with 1y is greater than or equal to negative 3 over 6. That fraction, 3/6, simplifies to a negative 1/2. And that would be our answer. So we want to graph this. Negative 1/2 would be between 0 and negative 1. So I can put 0, negative 1, I'll throw a negative 2 on there. So negative 1/2 is somewhere right in the middle between 0 and negative 1. Oh, you can't see my graph. So I'm going to put a circle right here about where negative 1/2 would be. Since it's greater than or equal to, it has the or equal to underneath. That means we can shade that circle in because it can actually equal that number. Y can be equal to negative 1, or it can be any number greater than negative 1. So like we talked about earlier, your greater numbers are to the right, okay? So if we put 0 here where y is 0 is greater than a negative 1/2. So we're shading to the right. And there we go. And those are just a few examples covering solving and graphing inequalities.